And welcome back. Our first conversation this morning is with my good friend, Rear Admiral Elton Bennett. He's no longer in Coast Guard, but he's wearing a new jacket and a new role he's playing as the CEO of Home Affairs. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning, Hassan. Good morning, and good morning, Belize.
There's so much for us to talk about with this new post that you've taken up. I want to begin by first asking about the transition, because you've been a career officer, and to move from doing what you've been doing for the past 29 years to working out of an office and overseeing a ministry along with the assigned minister is a completely different turn of events. Let's start there.
It's different indeed, but a lot of the work itself remains the same in terms of security. Citizen security, national security, they're all related. But in terms of the job specification itself, it is a little bit different. For 29 years, I wore a uniform and executed duties from the perspective of a military officer, which is very pointed, which is very straightforward, which is very
specific.
It's very specific as compared to the job that I now have, which is a broad field of administration, policy, and strategy. It's not different in its core, but the execution is very different. For example, my ministry that I now have in Belmopan is made up of all civilians. So whilst we have departments that are uniform, the police service, the ministry and those who are surrounded with are all civilians, and that relationship at work is very different.
Now, I can't imagine what this experience must be like. I remember last year having a sit down with you and talking about your role as commandant and what that has been like, you know, having many other people under you, speaking to females as well. We were looking at Ms. Pinello as well. How has the transition felt for you as a person? I mean, you spoke about the outfit change from uniform to suit and tie, but how are you adjusting as a person aside from just military?
To be honest, I think I was reaching the point where I was being prepared mentally, not only by myself, but by the environment and spiritually as well, that I was sort of anticipating change in my career. I commanded the Coast Guard for 6 years. At that point, you would have been looking forward to moving on or moving out. In the media, for example, your time in command is 4 years. I commanded for 6 years. And so I was at that point where I was being mentally prepared to go on to something else. What that something else would have been, only the powers that be would have been able to predict that. So the change itself was welcome when it was presented to myself, and I realized, okay, this is it. And so I was mentally prepared to take on a new challenge.
Was this a no-brainer decision for you though? Because there was a lot of, I'd say, heavier stories coming out of the ministry as well. Last year was a tough year for the ministry. Was it an easy decision to make to switch gears and go into this one?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So we all saw the difficulties that the Ministry of Home Affairs and particularly those activities involving the police was all over the media. And so to say yes to a job like this really required someone in the mindset prepared to take on this task. And I was prepared without a doubt. I said yes. I knew that I would have been able to make a difference. I knew that I would have been able to make an impact. And I was definitely ready for the challenge.
Let's step back for a second here. My question, what do you do with all the experience and the wealth of knowledge given the transition from life as a military officer to now being a CEO? Are you perhaps part of the National Security Council, or
yes.
What do you do with all the training and all the knowledge?
So I still remain as a part of the National Security Council, a position that I've held or been a part of for quite a few years. But as relates to the knowledge, I'm very qualified for this assignment. My last course of study in the United Kingdom prepares you for assignment like this. My last course of study was not a military course. This was to teach you how government works. And a lot of the exercises, a lot of the the curriculum was focused on the higher level of government. So for 1 year, I was studying and preparing for this assignment. In the military, you're always prepared for one level up. Whenever you do training, you're being prepared for an assignment one level up. So I did that, and then I came back home and did some practical application at the operational level, and now I transition onto it. So it was really, I was prepared for it.
Now you're looking at a job that sees you dealing with civilians and citizen security as the primary mandate, right? How do you plan to tackle Belize City? Because I know Belize City could be very, very tough in terms of crime and violence and trying to keep a lid on those kinds of illegal activities.
Yeah, Belize City is a challenge indeed. So I've been researching and reading and engaging with a lot of the history and theory about violence in Belize City. No, I was not absent for the past 20, 29 years. I was always working at the tactical and operational level with the police. So I've seen the challenges in Belize City. So when I look at the programs that currently exist, for example, the Leadership Intervention Unit, I think in concept is a very well thought out program. I think there are certain adjustments that needs to be made with the design of it for it to be effective. I do recognize that it's a lot more than home affairs that needs to be effective and to be there in order for that program to be successful. So I like the all of government concept that went into the formation of the LIU, where you have sports, you have youths, you have human development, you have employment opportunities for at-risk youths and marginalized youths. So I think there's a good model there that I find very easy to work with, and I'm able to look at areas where we need to improve on our efficiency. If I were to be doing an efficiency audit of the LIU as we're going along, that's what we're doing in order to tighten up areas for us to be more effective. So the LIU is one thing that I believe is a good framework to address the situation in Belize City, and I think it's been working well.
All right, go ahead.
I wanted to add to this very same question that Isani had asked earlier about Belize City being an area of focus. Do you believe that there are different strategies that should be incorporated for different areas of the country or different districts, for example, when we look at crime situations?
Yeah, absolutely. The minister and myself were talking about expanding this model to different parts of the country, the same leadership intervention, but focusing on the younger youths, focusing on those between the ages of 11 to 15 that are still young enough that can be molded in order for us not to have to focus on the hard security measures. So there are certain areas where the hard enforcement is the only way that you can get through. And there are some sectors of society and different parts of the country where intervention is key. So just to use the police strategy today, this is really a three-pronged approach into Belize City where it's mediation, intervention, and then law enforcement. We believe that if we can do more mediation and intervention at the earlier stage, then there will be less hard enforcement. So that's where the emphasis is now going to shift. And we've already started to reorganize our program here in Belize City and looking across the country where we're going to be focusing on interventions, trying to get more sporting activities, life skills programs for our at-risk youths and those who rely heavily on society in order for them to be successful. So we find ourselves in a unique place where there are things such as parenting that are crucial for society to be successful and for crime rates to be reduced. But how do you apply that as a part of our ministry's mandate? And that's where we rely heavily on those other ministries and those other departments to bring those expertise along with us.
So you've moved on from one core responsibility in the Coast Guard to another as a CEO of Home Affairs. And for us in the media, we are brutal when it comes to numbers, right? So it's the challenge for you now to see how perhaps you could either minimize the numbers in terms of homicides and stuff, because at the end of the year, that's the report card that that we all look at, right?
Well,
how much crime was either averted, or how many arrests were made. how the department is, or the ministry is able to keep a lid on murders, for instance.
Yeah, so a good observation, and one that I've looked at with a different lens. Recently, we had our comparative statistics annual conference.
Yeah.
ComStat, the one that the media was not happy about not being invited to the post interviews afterwards. We plan to make it up. It wasn't intentional or by design to keep you out. But when you look at the statistics there, there are some good things coming out there. Conviction rate, for example, at 77% is really good. Our response is very good. I think one of the shortcomings, though, is preventing crimes.
Yeah.
So we need to improve on the strategic effort that will be designed to prevent crime, and that requires officer presence, and that's a hard thing to do. So if you were to judge the effectiveness of our ministry based on statistics and numbers, you may be off. I think you need to look at some of the qualitative as well, and not only the quantitative that looks at the data and statistics. There's a lot to be discussed with how people feel about security. What's your mindset about the police department, about the confidence level, things that cannot be shown on paper, but we know that we need to improve on. So it's much broader than just the statistics and data. Yes, the murder rate and major crimes is perhaps the easiest thing to grab and look at and to make the comparison. But there's a lot more that we are looking at in terms of improving the department, and those are the service-oriented part of policing.
And I think therein lies the challenge for you and, of course, the commissioner and the minister, really. How do we regain a sense of trust and confidence in the police department, where the average person, when you mention, okay, the police are going to get involved, everybody just get apprehensive and stand off, right? How do you work to build that back, to say, well, look, policemen and women come from some of the same communities, or from the very same communities that we all are a part of, and so we have to be able to treat with it in a manner that we respect their work and they respect us as civilians?
Yeah, so building trust is a huge part of what we're consciously doing. The Commissioner of Police has, as a part of his strategy, a reformation of the police. And for us at the ministry, what we interpret this to be and what we want to focus on is leadership. A lot of leadership within the police department, getting formal professional courses that would qualify a person not only to be an operational commander, but to have those senior officers go through a series of professional training, not only academic, but focus on leadership. And that is what will make a difference. So we've already started a discussion with our partners. Our minister had the opportunity to engage with President Ali from Guyana, and we looked at professional commission courses for the police department, leadership courses, and a full career track that would bring them in from entry at officer cadet level and all the way up to senior staff and so forth, similar to what we have experienced in the military that works. So we want to focus a lot on leadership, and we think that will make a difference. You see, it's very difficult for the police to be received within society if you come with a lot of baggage. We need to fix our house. We need to ensure that the police is in a very good standing with the community in order for us to be effective and received. So we recognize that, and we are well on the way with reforming the police department in that regard.
You know what just crossed my mind, Mr. Bennett? I immediately thought to myself after hearing that you would make the transition to Home Affairs, I wonder if you would bring a sense of firm discipline as a military man to the ministry, that we would get that less of what was already there with perhaps the sports and looking at families, and more of structure. We need you know, that military presence.
Yes.
Did that ever cross your mind to give some of that as well?
Yeah, so the Prime Minister keeps reminding me every opportunity that he engages with me that he wants to see a change in the discipline and the formation of the police department, and we're working well on that. What I have to be conscious of, though, is not to overstep my bounds. I'm not the commissioner of police, and I am not the person immediately in charge of the police officers. But in a sense, where I sit has a good position as relates to applying pressure and applying discipline in between the department and services commission. So I've been up and down that chain trying to make changes as relates to discipline.
Yeah.
What was and this is perhaps a bit personal, but it's okay. What was the feeling that your family had when you agreed to take on this job? New role and everything. How did they feel?
That's a good question. Well, my wife and I, we discussed more than with the kids, and so she was anticipating what would have been the next move. So it came at no surprise to her. But also, what's a good thing is that I'm 10 minutes away from work.
Okay.
For all my working life, I was out of Belmopan, traveling to either Belize City or to Ladeville.
So I'm at home.
So from that perspective, it is a good one. The kids can't figure it out. I mean, they're age 20 and 15, but for them, they kind of grew up knowing a military dad, and so they are uncertain about the transition and what my.
I think as a child growing up, then, right, you seeing a parent put on a uniform for all of his or her professional life, and then you switch from, uniform to formal wear, if that's the case. It takes a bit of getting used to.
So for them, it's a strange thing, but it's working out.
What are some of the immediate changes that the country can expect coming from your role as CEO, your input as CEO?
Discipline, of course. Expect to see a improvement of discipline within the department. We have already had our fingers on some of the very important disciplinary cases. I've engaged with the Commissioner of Police and asked some of the hard questions as related to status of some cases. But those aren't cases that would be able to show out there in the public. But we can make an effort to say, okay, this is what we're doing internally. Okay, a police officer is dismissed or charged. I guess we need to find a way to put it out there, because I think the country is expecting to see what we're doing or what I am doing in terms of improving discipline. So that's one. And then the other one is working along with the minister to improve the special branch service. It has been a sort of a dormant branch, a very key component to the effectiveness of security in this country, and we are planning to revamp. We've already started the process to revamp the special branch in terms of giving it some of the resources it needs to perform its duties. So intelligence gathering is one area that we're heavily focusing on. And let me touch on one more. Not as exciting, but the management of resources, vehicles, equipment is something that falls within the purview of the CEO. So I come with a sense of appreciation of limited resources, and so there's a lot of emphasis that I'm placing on managing our vehicle fleet, managing our equipment better. So you should see an improvement there as well.
That's interesting, because at least from where we sit as members of the media, every so often there's a donation of vehicles and stuff, right? The U.S. Embassy provides, or whomsoever. But it's almost as if though when you get a vehicle 3 months ago and then 3 months later you done in a garage or done broke up or whatsoever, and yes, you tell me there's a lot of wear and tear in terms of patrols and stuff, but some of the officers not really,
I agree. I haven't bought into the belief that these assets are designed for 2 to 3 years. So we must get a lot more out of it. These are government resources, and I think there's a lot more care that can go into it. But if we can shift gears a little bit, National Forensic Services, for example, is a very very effective part of what we do at the Ministry of Home Affairs.
And that's all civilians too.
Yeah, all civilians. Yeah. Very dedicated bunch of personnel, highly qualified, and very well equipped that I found. Their contribution to the crime fighting strategies is crucial. They're able to track weapons and shells from crime scenes and pin it to individuals. So that's a big part of what you see in terms of the high conviction rate of 77% conviction rate. And you would have noticed over the past few months, maybe 2 months, where we've had a series of murders, police has been able to arrest and charge for almost, I think, about 90% of those. They've been very effective.
I was impressed with the speed with which the police department was able to make arrests in the double murder for the Sarita delivery men, make arrests for the murder of Mark Gabriel in Belmopan as well. Usually people skeptical, right? Things happen and we figure, well, they don't make no arrest for that one, but that was impressive.
And one in Mango Creek as well.
Yes,
those are very, very quick.
As well,
so I was rather impressed with the level of investigation capabilities within the police department, and I saw it firsthand. And the country can see those very quick results of us being able to quickly and accurately make those arrests and charges.
I'll give you another example. The arrest of the police officer last week for the murder that occurred in Ladyville. The information that came out is that, well, we did a ballistic test on the weapon and I can't run off on that.
Yeah, so again, that's where the science comes in to support our policing efforts. And if you look at the mission of the vision of the ministry, there's a lot of emphasis placed on using science and technology in the execution of our duties. So surveillance cameras around have been very, very effective. And again, the good works from the National Forensic Services has made some very good contributions to that.
You spoke earlier about human resources being one of the challenges as well. In terms of fighting crime, there's not enough police presence. Can we expect that number to grow under your leadership as well?
There are plans to continue to increase. The attrition rate, I think, is somewhere between 4 and 7% of police officers leaving by natural attrition. People retire out or people will move on to other duties. So in order for us to just maintain the numbers, we'll have to be recruiting at the very minimum 100 per year. So yes, there are plans to continue to improve and continue to increase the numbers. But we also want to utilize technology in enforcement, and that has been working well. So even though we may not be able to increase the numbers to the point of where we want to, we'd be adding the technologies that would be effective in our enforcement efforts.
All right. Well, as we wind down this conversation,
we're winding down already.
We are, just like that, right? When you're having fun. We spoke about some of the next steps that we can expect, but I just want to ask from you personally, what do you want to be remembered for in your role here in this ministry?
Just another public officer, and the same thing that I had when I left the Coast Guard. I just want to be remembered as someone who came in and did his utmost best for the service of the country. That's it, as simple as that. Just someone who made a contribution, a genuine worker. Nothing more than that, just a worker in a public service.
So the Coast Guard mantra or slogan is Utrinque Paratos, right?
All right.
How do you, say, I remember anything, right? How do you carry that forward, even though you're no longer, just the message and everything that embodies, seeing as though you're no longer a part of the Coast Guard, but it's something that carries forward?
Yeah, there's a lot that was instilled in me from the Coast Guard that becomes a part of my life. Our core values, courage, commitment, respect, and I always add integrity onto it. And of course, our motto of being ready for anything has definitely shaped the way how I do business, both on and off the job. So it's impossible to take out those Coast Guard core values from this individual and place him anywhere else and not get the same person. So that's who I am now.
Well, you did tell us that you, for the rest of your life, will be known as Rear Admiral as well. So
All right.
that's a part of it, I guess. It's within you. It's instilled within you.
Thank
Before we take our next break, I want to engage really quickly our motivational quote with you this morning.
Sure.
It's taken from Helen Keller, and it goes like this: optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, now we take another quick break, but don't go anywhere. Our next conversation is unraveling legacies at the Caribbean Studies Forum.